Okay.
10-second notice. All righty.
All right.
All right. Good morning, members of the excuse me. Little distraction just came up. I apologize. Good morning, members of the Subcommittee on Data. Today is Friday, March 18th at 12 o'clock. Mr. Vogel, if you could please do the roll call.
Certainly, Madam Chair. Ms. Evans? Ms. Evans? Mr. Kammer?
Present.
Ms. Mattson?
Present.
Representative Mueller? Representative Mueller? Ms. Robertus? Ms. Robertus? Ms. Williamson?
Present.
All right, Madam Chair, 3 of the 6 members are present. Unfortunately, a quorum is not present. However, if another member does come in, you could always call for another roll call just to officially notice their presence, as it were.
All right. That sounds like a great idea, especially since we would need to adopt the previous meeting minutes. Okay. So according to our agenda, I know we normally would go into our DHS, any updates to give Ms. Castaing opportunity, as well as discussion of the provided data and topics. But our prior meeting, we did intend to discuss the duration of our meetings going forward, and our discussion was so robust and very informative that we ran out of time to go over the duration. So I have asked that we can just start that discussion first, just so that we know going forward our duration. And I do understand that we have a few members that are not present, but we do have the information from the doodle poll that we had done a few weeks back. So more so just wanted to open up discussion in regards to, I know that in preparation for the interim report, also being strategic in regards to the session begin or the session start, we were meeting initially weekly, then we went to bi-monthly or every other week. And so looking to see if we should continue meeting every other week. Do we want to just meet monthly for a moment? And again, at any point in time, we can change the duration if we think just meeting monthly for right now, and then pick it up later or continue on with the every other week. I do want to say, if we do decide to continue with the every other week choice, we do want to look at with April, the bi-monthly schedule would fall on Good Friday week. So that would also be something that we would want to look at as well. So with that, excuse me, with that, we can open up the discussion.
Madam Chair, is the full group, does that meet twice per month as well?
Yes.
Okay. I guess I would vote for a once a month cadence, as we're kind of nearing the end of session. And I know there's a lot of competing priorities for many of us. And it seems as though we've got a lot of data to absorb, but we don't necessarily need to meet more, just, look at however we synthesize the data, if that's in a chart format or a narrative or what have you. That's my initial thoughts anyway. I wasn't here, I don't think, for the last conversation, so sorry I missed that.
No worries. And we do have somewhat notes for that we want to continue with on today. Member Kammer?
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm in support of that too. I guess my one question though is, if we're working on synthesizing the data, determining how we're going to display it, is it acceptable for us to email that back and forth within the committee as draft form? or do we run into issues with that? I don't know. So that's my one concern, because I think there's work we could be doing where we don't necessarily need to be meeting, but then in terms of consulting, that's where I get more worried. So that's my question. Anyone have thoughts on that?
I will defer to Mr. Vogel in regards to that tactful suggestion.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Mr. Kammer. So I think my real answer is I'm going to kick that question over to the nonpartisan legislative legal staff, who are basically the go-to experts in the open meeting law for me, since I'm not a lawyer. But my understanding from working with them on open meeting law issues before is that the spirit of the law is the public should be able to see the decision-making process of the group in action. So it would be permissible, for example, and this is off the top of my head, so I'll get you a more authoritative answer, but it would, for example, be permissible for individual members to potentially, consult about the draft of a presentation, something like that, the way that we consult about the text of these agendas. But a long email thread, discussing back and forth, well, we want to do this, we want to do that. That would sort of be more than out of the view of the public, if that makes sense. So sorry, that's a long-winded way of saying I don't know, but I will get back to you on that answer.
Okay, fantastic. I think what we should do is I'm in agreement, excuse me, with going monthly for right now. Just because we do have yet some dissecting to do and synthesizing, as mentioned. So, and I don't foresee that Vice Chair or Member Robertus or especially Representative Mueller would object, but I don't know if they are not here. So I would like to suggest, and then Mr. Vogel, please correct me if I'm not able, if I don't have the authority to make this decision, or if it requires an actual vote, but that for April, we would just plan to meet once at a time that, again, from the information we got from the doodle poll, and then at that meeting, we can then again raise, if a vote is required, we can then raise this discussion to then vote at that time.
Certainly, Madam Chair, and no, you'd have the power to set these meeting times as the chair. Just briefly looking at the April calendar, assuming we want to keep this, or that you want to keep this Friday at noon meeting time, that was what the doodle poll indicated generally worked for everybody. The April 8th and 22nd are 10 a.m. meetings of the full task force. We're sort of on the off week from the task force meetings right now. April 15th is Good Friday, which leaves April 1st and April 29th as days that would essentially, fit this meeting at noon time without being right after the full task force meeting. So I don't know. As a suggestion, April 1st is 2 weeks from today, so it feels sort of silly to be going to a monthly schedule starting 2 weeks from now, but I wonder if that might be the best option for the group.
And you said it's the 1st or the 29th. I know it does seem a little backwards for our next meeting to be 2 weeks from now. However, I like that it would be at the beginning of the month. And then it would also give opportunity, if for any reason that Vice Chair Evans or Representative Mueller wanted us to continue with the bi-weekly schedule, we could then accommodate that. So if anyone is in agreement or in disagreement with that, I would say we could go with the first. Member Matson?
Madam Chair, I agree with you, and also think perhaps if on the 1st we could set a schedule as far as what we want to have accomplished and by when. That might help guide our work a little bit so that we, analyze data for this data set by X or what have you, so that there's some kind of roughed out schedule that we can established going forward, that might alleviate any anxiety about, getting to the finish line. But yeah, I agree with you.
Very great point. Okay, so Mr. Vogel, we will set our next meeting for April 1st. Oh, I'm so sorry. Member Cammer?
I was gonna say, I have a commitment on April 1st, so I would not be able to attend, but just throwing that out for an FYI, and I encourage the group to meet whenever it works best for the group. That is the day I happen to have a commitment.
Is there a different time that would work better for you on that day?
Unfortunately, no, we have a group of addiction educators who get together twice a year, and that's one of the Fridays we get together, and it goes from 9 a.m. till 3 p.m. So it's just one of those days where I am committed, and we're hosting this year, so I'm particularly committed.
Yeah.
So
Yes, well, do you mind? I know that you had already, you and Jill, and I apologize if I'm saying her name wrong. I know there was some work that you had already kind of got prepared. So if you don't mind, that's something that we could at least look at if you think that would be tactful. Otherwise, we can wait. We can set to member Matson's point, set our objectives, if you will, and then have you to just go over it another time. I just don't want, because I know you put some hard work into that already, and it feels like we kind of keep delaying to see it.
no, that's all good. And honestly, if anything, I would just love more feedback of what additional types of data we want to display. I think we've taken we know assuredly there are disparities based on race and ethnicity. I know at that data set 3, we started to take a look at gender, but there's a whole lot of other pieces of information there, and I think we just have to decide how we want to display it. Because there's 70 some pages of data, so or more. I can't remember. It's long. So what are the key points we want to display? So Mr. Vogel, would it be appropriate for me to email that? Well, have you email that PowerPoint out to the group just as a starting point? Is that okay? I honestly can't remember if I've sent it to you or not. So I apologize if
I apologize too, Mr. Camera. I can't remember off the top of my head, but I think it's appropriate. Yes.
So, okay, I will send that to you, and then that might be a starting point just to discuss what do we like that's there, or what do we want to take out, what would we want to add, and such like that. So I will send that right away.
Okay, perfect. Then that way we can go ahead and schedule our meeting for April 1st, and then Member Cameron, we can be in communication with you. And then that way our next meeting, if it's not until May, we already have somewhat of feedback or start to viewing that. So thank you so much again. All right, but that is actually a great segue into our discussion. And so I will, Ms. Cassane, want to just really start off with you. And hello, Jill. Hi. Nice to see you. So I would like to just start off with any updates or what you would like to share with the group as we begin this discussion.
Thank you, Chair Williamson, and good morning, members. I know your last meeting, I had thought, or I had reported that the 4th data set might have been available to you this week. And that was with the best intentions, and we move forward with the best intentions. However, as you know, it's first committee deadline, the legislature coming up. And so we've just sort of been swamped with those activities. I know that we are sort of reaching towards the approval process. So I can't make any promises of when it'll happen. I can assure you, though, that I will share the 4th data set with Mr. Vogel as soon as it's available, an approved version is available to share with you. And I apologize that my estimate was off by a little bit. I'm happy to answer any questions that you have.
Thank you so much for your transparency. Let's see. So we could just start off with the the point that Member Cameron was making, just in regards to, just additional requests that we may need to make here. I know per our previous discussion, there was question raised in regards to interest about the fiduciary or the fiscal report for how much it costs for these background studies and things of that nature. So I'm wondering, Ms. Cassane, would you be able to help us as far as the verbiage or what type of report we can try to request from DHS in regards to seeing the fiscal note?
Yes, Chair Williamson and members. I remember that request from last time. We've talked about it a bit on our team. Sort of the more detail you have about what sort of you're looking for, what study type, or sort of are you looking for an average? It would help to do it by or what type of study in particular you're looking at, because we do have a variety of them. That if you have that level of detail in your request, that would be great and helpful to know. Otherwise, we've started working on providing what information we can about that. And that, of course, can, like with everything else, can be an ongoing dialogue about what information suits your needs. And any outstanding questions that you have. Oh, excuse me.
No, I was just, could you please remind us of what this fourth data set will include?
Once again, I thought I was going to remember that. I'll have a quick look.
Madam Chair, while we wait, just to interject,
Please.
April 1st is second deadline. I don't know if that matters, but it matters for some of us. As far as, ability to juggle priorities. So just putting that out there.
Thank you for that. Looks like we should, Ms. Cassane, while you are looking up the information, looks like we should look at the 29th of April. However, we could send Mr. Vogel, if this is okay, just to kind of send email correspondence of where we leave off today, so that members can just kind of know to prepare any questions that they may have, looking over the presentation or the new pie charts. And I'm sorry, Mr. Cameron, I'm not sure what all you prepared, but so I don't want to downplay it. But to look over that as well, and then we can just plan to meet on the 29th. Let's see.
Certainly,
Thank
Madam
you.
Chair. Sorry, I don't know if I should be speaking up, but certainly.
Please. Thank you. And thank you, Member Matson, for bringing that up. All right, Ms. Cassane, when you're ready.
Yes. So the fourth data set is, and I will read it exactly for you. So it's the fourth data overview, is the count of determinations with requests for reconsideration broken down by outcome, race, ethnicity, and by gender.
Okay, so that would be the request.
Would you like me to repeat that? A lot.
Please.
So it's the count of determinations with requests for reconsideration broken down by outcome, race, ethnicity, and gender.
But not program type?
Let me see in the chart. I can ask the data team about that. Member
Okay.
Mattson, I'm happy to ask about that.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And then Ms. Kassai, were you able to get any more information in regards to potential dates, as well as presentation, excuse me, potential dates of availability for a presentation, as well as the availability of a member of the data set team or data team?
Chair Williamson and members, that is another item that we've just started discussing, our team at DHS. And that is another item where we just need a bit more time due to some conflicts with this week, with the busyness of session. And I will certainly continue in the interim to be in touch with Mr. Vogel and do with any updates about that.
Thank you.
And Madam Chair, I don't know if you can see, but Mr. Cameron's hand is up.
I did not. Thank you. Mr. Cameron, please. Member
Sure.
Cameron.
Yeah, so this is a question for Ms. Kassai, and I don't know if this data would even exist, so I'm just curious. I know there's been some conversation about length of time of processing some of the requests for reconsiderations and such. In the data that DHS maintains, do you know if that type of data would even exist in terms of, do they track when reconsideration is filed and when it is closed? And if so, I don't know if we as a subcommittee officially requested that data or not. So I've got, I guess, a ton of questions. So first, I guess, Ms. Kassai, does that type of data, would it exist if we did request it? If we haven't, I'm not even sure.
Mr. Cameron, Member Cameron, I am not certain. I apologize. I am not certain. I will check with the data team. I'll keep a list of things to inquire about and get back to you.
Thank you.
About what level of detail.
Madam Chair, if I could too, and then also if that, while they're waiting, if they're able to work versus not work, if they're, when you have a pending study and it says you can work with individuals or it says you absolutely can't, that would be good to know. Just as far as the impact to workforce, and also just the regular studies, even without the background or without the disqualification set aside process, the time that those are pending as well. I don't know if I'm sure there's a way to count that. And God bless you for returning to fingerprints, because I'm sure it's been a challenge this week. So.
Yes.
Last week.
Thank you, Member Mattson. That's true. So just to make sure I'm clear, are you looking for that sort of how that figures into the timeline, or are you looking for sort of a count of study subjects who are able to work?
Well, I guess both. I think, I believe what Member Cameron was hinting at was just the impact to workforce, and as far as, how long that sits there in kind of a pending bucket. And then also, I know he's also getting at who's availing themselves of the set aside process, but I'm looking at it from a workforce perspective, is how long is that taking while we could potentially lose that person as a candidate, where they just say, bag it, I'm not gonna wait.
Thank you.
I imagine, I'm sorry.
No, I was just saying I'll look for that.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think we're all struck with, we don't necessarily know what data are all there. So I'd imagine if you and other members of the data team have any ideas, based on some of these common themes or threads, saying, this might be of real interest to you, that would be helpful, because I think, we don't want to request something that isn't there, or request something and you might say, oh, we have something similar that would be really helpful, that might be easier to pull. But I think, from some of our last meetings, it just seems like, workforce concerns and trying to quantify some of that, and the time is really key, I think, on everyone's mind. So I think having some data in that regard would be really helpful. So
Great.
thank you.
Yeah, thank you for asking, Member
I
Cameron.
also think we could use it to correlate to the longer that perhaps pens. Does that have an impact? I mean, and this would be us in our analysis. Does that have an impact in that individual saying, okay, I'm not even going to request a set aside because I've waited X, we could look at those two trend lines together to perhaps provide some insight.
Madam Chair, if I might interject and in fact share my screen, I wanted to answer Mr. Kammer's tacit question about whether the task force is actually, or sorry, the subcommittee is actually placed that request. The answer is basically yes, but here's the specific text that I submitted to DHS back in January. So it would be this data request. I think you can see my screen. It would be this data request 110. So it's asking for information about the average time that cases are open, how long it takes for a set-aside decision, et cetera. I don't think my specific language asked about the issue of whether individuals could work or not work. So yeah, since we're having these discussions, or sorry, you're having these discussions with Ms. Kassane, I assume that's something that could be incorporated on their end. But I just wanted to make you aware that this is what DHS has been working with for the past few months.
Thank you for pulling that up, Mr. Vogel.
Definitely. And if you'd like, members, I can send out this document again. I know I've sent it out a lot, but email inboxes are, vast piles of stuff.
Yes, if you could send that again, just so it's fresh. And Ms. Kassane, is that, considering how the request was submitted, would we need to submit another request to include that, or is that something that can be done without an additional request?
Chair Williamson, yes, we're working from this list. If it's on the list the way you would like to request it, then we're set. If you have any clarifications or any other detail you would like to add, I'm taking notes, but it would be wonderful if you sort of had in one place the exact detail of what you would like, and it's not not conflicting with other documents that we have. So any clarification or more detail or any rephrasings of the request, that would be wonderful for us to have.
Okay, so just for clarification purposes, we basically would need Mr. Vogel to just send you another, just basically title clarification of previous requests, maybe referencing to this point or this section of the request, and then including that additional request, that additional ask, correct?
Yes, Chair Williamson. However, it's easiest for Mr. Vogel if he would like to, for his purposes, if he'd like to update that document or do some sort of an addendum, that would be wonderful. Where we can be in close contact just to make sure we're clear about everything.
Mr. Vogel, do you have any question to that?
Madam Chair, I don't believe so. So it's Ms. Matson's question about asking for this data also be broken down by who's able to work throughout these timelines and who's not able to work. Correct?
Is that correct, Member Matson? Okay.
All right. Yeah, I can
Yes,
type up that as an addendum and send it over to Ms. Kassane. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much.
Madam Chair, Mr. Kammer's hand is up again.
Yeah.
Now I can see. Okay, please go ahead, Member Cameron.
Yeah. So in terms of the timeline data, I'm trying to process in my mind. So data set 4 is on the way. So the timeline data, would that be data set 5 then, or are there other things that DHS will be pulling in between there, or how does it fall in the priority? Because I see our other items up above. I'm trying to get a sense of where that'll fall, because it seems like it's kind of the one of the primary topics of discussion lately. So I'm just I don't know if we have any ability to prioritize that next. Or Ms. Kassane, do you know if there's an intention to work on other data after data set 4, or how it's being parceled out? Just trying to get a better sense of timeline.
Yes, thank you for that, Member Kammer and Chair Williamson and other members. What I think we're going to do next is sort of, we have the 4 data sets, and then we sort of have I hate to call them miscellaneous because there are a lot of them and they're not really miscellaneous. And I don't mean to imply that they're less important, but they're sort of, sort of less amenable to being sort of grouped together, some of them. So
Subsets.
yeah, what we can do is to sort of look, we've been looking at what data points, match up with the data that we have. So there may be some items which we simply don't have the data for, and could provide an update on that. And then sort of, once we do that, it could be that various groupings sort of leap out as something that could be combined together. Or we can look at prioritizing them in consultation with you, of course. But yeah, sort of looking at the outstanding requests and sort of what data we have available. Does that seem like a good way to proceed, so that you could have sort of an idea of what we can possibly pull, and then you could see what's the priority?
That would be fantastic. And I know, to Member Cameron's point, in beginning some of our initial meetings, we have made multiple requests, or I should say just multiple statements in regards to, we don't know what we don't know.
Mm-hmm.
So the more that you could please help us if there's other data sets or other types of data that we haven't requested that you think would be useful to this work, we would greatly, greatly appreciate that.
Absolutely, Chair Williamson.
All right, and I see Member Robertus is here. So I do want to just acknowledge you. Before you begin, Mr. Vogel, do we need to do another roll call to establish quorum, or?
Madam Chair, I think I did misspeak there, or rather not misspeak. I meant what I said, but I think I was wrong. I don't believe so. Ms. Robertus, the chair sees you, I see you, so I believe a quorum is present, Madam Chair.
All right, thank you so much. Please proceed, Member Robertus. Nice to see you.
Thank you. I may be speaking out of turn because I was super tardy today. I apologize. I was on another committee. But I always want to put this out there. I believe in the concept that we don't know what we don't know, and I support that. However, also understanding that DHS has a lot on their plate. They have a limited amount of staff. They still have to be processing all the applications we're saying they're going too slow on. And so I think there is some benefit to discuss some thoughtfulness around it. And I would ask this council, do we have some good data to get us started to continue to move forward, right? So I don't want to keep requesting data just because to request data. I don't think that makes sense. I don't think that's fair to the team that has to pull this data and continue to do their jobs. And so I would just ask that it serves a purpose, and that at some point, do we need to assess what we have, because we have enough to try to tackle what the other council and full council needs to make. I've just been spending some time on this in my brain, and even just thinking about our last meetings. And that's it. That's all I wanted to just know.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Yes, please go ahead.
Yeah, Madam Chair, I agree with that, which is part of the reason why I think I was saying, if we set our own timeline, even if it's rough, to say we want to analyze this data set by this time, this data set by this time, so that we have an idea of kind of what's up in the air and where we need to go. Because if we're gonna drop to monthly meetings too with a different cadence, I think, we're gonna want to know what are, well, maybe it's just me. I'm a last minute Lucy. I need to have deadlines so that, 24 hours before the deadline, I'm doing what I said I was going to do. I shouldn't maybe have announced that publicly, but you know what I'm saying? I think to hold ourselves accountable, and I agree with that. I think we need to assess kind of where we're at and where we want to be by June, July, August. Because, I think maybe we do need all the data that we've requested, but we don't necessarily need it tomorrow or next month. Maybe there's some that we could do with to look at after session is over or something like that. Anyway, that's my thoughts.
Yes, I want to make sure I'm not missing any hands. Okay. No, those are both very great points to make. I do want to just give a reminder that with the data that we have received, with DHS has been duteous, and again, this workforce shortage has, it goes across the gamut. And so in trying to retrieve the data, I know we haven't been able to really have set deadlines even just to receiving the data. So this is something that is kind of a both and. I know with our meetings going forward, and Member Robertus, you could please feel free to weigh in. We had already began our discussion in regards to our future meetings and durations, and looking to, for the time being, go with monthly. Where we're looking at our next meeting, it seems like Friday, April 29th made the most sense. But looking to kind of set an outline from here of the plan regarding the data that we have, doing our further synthesis to then determine if there's more data that we need or how we're going about with our presentation. Yes, I believe this is a both and, that we still need to try to get this data because, again, we don't know how soon we can get it, in addition to analyzing and synthesizing. All right, let's see here. I just want to, Jill, with you being in this space, and really appreciate your assistance with Member Kammer. Was there any any points of interest or any questions that you want to raise in this space as we have this discussion regarding the data? And we're also looking into other data topics. Was there anything that had come to mind for you?
Just in regards to the request that we have made for this additional data, I think what we've gotten so far is a great basis, but when we're looking at timeframes for employers and employees, and then how long it takes DHS to do these things, and so time and money aspects, like we don't have that information at this point, and I think those are the really important spots that we need to be looking at. So I think with the next requested data that we receive, we'll have far more information to present and be able to see more of an issue. That's all I have.
Thank you. Very good point. All right. So in regards to, Ms. Cassane, I just want to look to you I think it's great if you're able to just kind of summarize the notes that you have, just so that if we need to clarify anything for you, we can be of assistance in that way. So if you wouldn't mind giving us a summary of what you have. And
Absolutely, Chair Williamson. I'll work on that and provide that to you as soon as I'm able to.
To provide what now, as soon as you're able to?
That was referring to like going through the list of the data points that you'd requested, and then sort of assessing whether, or letting you know whether we have that data available. Just so it's sort of check in about where we are with remaining outstanding requests that you have that are outside of the 4 data sets.
Mhm.
And then there can be some prioritization perhaps on your end or our end.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I just wanted to just see what you had gathered from this meeting because it's a lot of moving parts. So
Mhm.
just want to make sure that we're assisting the having the same level of understanding here or interpretation. All right. Was there any further discussion? I know, we have discussed about other areas of data that I know Vice Chair Evans has been working on. I have as well. So want to see if, if there's anything else that needed to be discussed in that regard. I'm just opening the floor for that as well. Okay. And so if all minds are clear for the time being, as we continue to go forward with this. So April 29th is what we have set going forward, and member Cameron will provide the presentation, if you will, that he has prepared. Him and Miss Jill have been working on. So that will be an email form for the members to just kind of go over, give any questions or critique in regards to. And then for the 29th, we can just plan to kind of set our agenda going forward, just to be strategic and tactful as far as the data that we have received. And hopefully we'll be able to get more information on data to come. All right, with that, was there any questions, anything else to share in this space?
I want to share with the group, I'm on vacation on Friday, the 29th. I would
Okay.
proceed without me, but it is a vacation day for me, so.
We definitely want you to take your vacation, please. I do want to ask Member Robertus, because you always raise some really great points, all of you do. So if there's any additional questions that happen to come up for you in between time, that you can please just let us all know so that we can be sure to go over that on that meeting the 29th. Please be able to look over the presentation Member Cameron has prepared, just so we can make sure we're seeing your input.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I think my biggest thing that I've just been stuck on lately is right now the scope is so broad that I fear, in order to make effective change, either bipartisan support or wherever it's going to take, that to start narrowing down our priorities, I think is important. If we don't, I fear that this work will be for nothing. We have to think about, how do we garner the bipartisan support? What are the data points that are really going to hit home? Those are the things that are on my mind. As someone who is from a state agency, if we don't have a bipartisan support, this will go nowhere. And we need to prioritize. We can't have large scale scope. I don't want to say can't, but I think if we don't start to nail down some of the things that we really want to see change in, and maybe that's a larger group discussion. Maybe some of that is taking place, but even when we supply the data points, I think we should connect them to what those groups are looking for prioritization. That's just where I'm currently sitting and where my headspace is with everything that's going on.
No, thank you so much. And I will ask all of the members, but primarily you, Member Robertus. Mr. Vogel has sent the written request that we provided to DHS for the data. Please look that over. And so if there's any of that fine tuning that you see, and again, any of the members as well, please let's go ahead and provide that. And then I do want to just make mention regarding the disqualification and remedies subcommittees. We are planning to have a meeting where 2 of the 3 or 3 of the 3 subcommittees are coming together, because we want to make sure that kind of at our last full task force meeting where Chair Geffen was stating, we're looking to how our interim report is laid out, having that data to show where things are at, the scientific piece behind it, then being able to show what currently is in place, looking at this data, seeing what the disparities are, what is in place to fix this, and then also being able to have the stories to make it real, to bring it alive, right? And then being able to provide those remedies of how we can overcome this and go forward to follow what has been enacted or what needs to be enacted, right? So to your point, that is, I just wanted to share that is something that it will be discussed and planned in the future as far as being strategic. All righty. Well, if there was nothing else.
Madam Chair, there is
Am I
one more
missing?
agenda item now that a quorum is present, the adoption of previous meeting
Oh,
minutes.
yeah. See, you guys, it's Friday. Remember, Roberta's talking about vacation. I'm like, yes, let's get this weekend done. Okay. All right, let me stay professional. We're still in space. Okay. So, adoption of the previous meeting minutes. Does anyone have any clarifications or corrections for the previous meeting minutes? And if not, and I'm hearing none or seeing none, we can go ahead and adopt those minutes, please, Mr. Vogel. Thank you so much for that. All right, now, if there's no other, if all minds are clear, please have a wonderful weekend. I do want to say March is my birthday, and so you're welcome for the warmness that's happening. It's all because of my birthday, just so you all know. So. No, just playing. But have a wonderful rest of your weekend, the rest of the month, and look forward to seeing you all soon. Our next meeting here will be scheduled for April 29th. So thank you all.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Thank you. All right. Bye-bye.